have people seen this particular type of NYPD pickup truck? I guess that's for moving around fences. I have seen that before. But over here by the, I'm not sure what precinct this is, but this is kind of a unique one that looks like a castle. But that's not why I'm here. I'm out at an hour where, it's about to become late and maybe dark. Oh, that's the DMV I'm walking by. That's the new DMV there. Wanted to do this stream actually much earlier, but I got caught up in something. Menial, simple tasks have become just every aspect of them is antagonistic here in New York City now. This is maybe a little public service announcement. FedEx is no longer open until 9 p.m. And I know that sounds like a minor thing, particularly to people who live in cities where that is always the case. That's actually one thing I really disliked about Los Angeles was 6 p.m. FedEx. I was like, what? I understood it though, because 6 p.m. in Los Angeles is 9 p.m. in New York, and they're, I guess getting stuff to Europe or whatever, But there used to be a FedEx office here in New York City over on the west side where the Hudson Yards is now, that we've walked by several times when I've gone to the Javits Center. They used to have, it was like the main FedEx depot where all the stuff in New York went there before it went to the airport, and that was open until 10 p.m. I can tell you there were many hard drives shipped from 21st Century 3D out of that 10 p.m. FedEx. And I'm serious. It was like we were, I guess that's your marginal propensity to consume time until FedEx closes. But I wanted to send something, and I learned today that it's closed at 6. So I went over to that old West Side FedEx, and I realized, wait a minute, Hudson Yards is here now. So they obviously crushed it. And luckily, I found a FedEx truck on the street who was driving to, I guess, the airport. And if you print out a FedEx label on your computer, you can just stick it in an envelope and send it, and it goes. But that's not the purpose of this stream. It is interesting because it's yet another of the inconveniences that we are subjected to as a result of COVID-19. And people will say, oh, don't complain about FedEx. You got people dying of coronavirus. And
get messy, hey! Just be loving on my posts.
You got people dying of coronavirus, but also, stuff like people riding around on scooters on sidewalks, I really do not like. The sidewalks are called sidewalks, not side skateboards, not side rollerblades, not side bicycles. You walk on the sidewalk, and everything else, put it in the bike lane, and if you got wheels, subject yourself to the risk of getting run over. But anyway, got the thing off to FedEx in the truck, and the reason why I wanted to come out tonight is I've been trying to get over here all day. Huh?
Say hi to the camera.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody's got something stupid to say. Is it amazing? I do have something to protect myself with, so if there's anybody watching this stream that has this stupid idea of triangulating me, I am not in the mood, and I'm prepared to be arrested defending myself, and we'll leave it to a surprise as to how that will be done. But anyway, the reason I came out tonight is that I felt that we need to go look at this thing. I don't know that I've ever heard of anything at all more antagonistic. Discounting the kind of nonsense that, everybody's got something to say. It's a hostile environment out here, so I'm going to be very careful. The sun's going to be setting soon, and we want to watch out for that, because once it becomes dark, I think it will be quite dangerous. But today is the day that Mayor Bill De Blasio decided he wanted to paint wanted to paint Black Lives Matter right in front of Trump Tower, which, I mean, let's face it, if that is something that we want to have in New York City, there's a lot of places that seem more appropriate. Why wouldn't they paint that right in front of City Hall, which the fool who occupies that space has already relinquished it? Ooh, wait a minute. That's like H&M or something. That looks pretty closed. That's a big store. And then also that huge Victoria's Secret is like, I think their main New York City one, and it still remains boarded up. But back to the street mural there, I think it would have been certainly less antagonistic to paint it in front of City Hall, because that seems to be the area that the supporters of that movement have occupied and made their own. I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying, by the mayor instructing this mural to be painted on the street on Fifth Avenue in front of Trump Tower, it just seems remarkably antagonistic, juvenile, what do we want to call it? Now, I came out, I hope we're live. I don't have all of my, wow, this thing was at 100% when I left and now it's at 10. So there's always things to contend with here. How can I even, yeah, I don't know if I'm live. I hope I'm live. Can't see the comments. We're not going to concentrate on comments. If it's not live, it will be posted after the show. If anything goes wrong, if it disconnects, it'll be posted on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I had Jamie Ike on earlier today, and he has created Iconic Media, iconic.com. It's a new website where you can stream movies, some original films. He's releasing tomorrow his new movie, Unnatural. Jamie is a super nice guy, very smart, obviously David Icke's son, so I think you got a feel for what the nature of the content is going to be. Check out that show for sure. The reason I mention it is because the way they've set that up, it's really exactly the same thing that I'm trying to do. By creating this really low-cost monthly subscription service, it's this is the best way for the viewer to make sure that there's no outside influence on the reporting. You know, people are like, oh, why you gotta put it on Patreon? I shouldn't say people, because it's really usually just social engineers who are attempting to antagonize me and want to use childish and immature tactics to try to get me to do something that I obviously don't want to do. People are being a little bit more friendly with photobombing, so that's nice. I got no problem with people who want to be on the show. But the point is, the people who say, make everything free, should be out with the socialists, because it won't work that way. If I have no way of earning money by doing this, I'll obviously have to stop and find something else to do. And then there are no shows, free or otherwise. So people say, oh, get on BitChute, get on DLive. I'm on both of those and have been for maybe 2 years. So if you're a person in the comments who's a proponent of those platforms and you don't know that I'm on there, why would I try to get people who have never even heard of those platforms to get on there, where I also can't earn any money? So the answer, the solution, the best way to do it is to get onto subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It's as little as $2 a month. I mean, that's less than buying one magazine, one newspaper. If you're interested in the material at all, I would hope that that's a reasonable fee. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, and I'm going to start saying this a little bit more often because there are people who join Patreon, and the most common technical support issue that comes up has to do with attempting to view with the Patreon app. So if you're on iPhone or Android and you're trying to view with the Patreon app, don't use that. It's not compatible with the video server that I use. If you use Chrome or Safari, it works totally fine. And frankly, there's nothing about the app that makes it better that I've seen. It's just an app. So don't use the app. Use Chrome, use Safari, get on to Subscribestar and Patreon. Help crowdsource the truth. Keep going. Help me continue showing you the decrepit state of New York City that is not improving. And instead of doing actually smart things that could help the city at least maybe start to claw its way out of the economic disaster that in large part was created by... How you doing, man? Oh, he's just selling masks, so that's cool. He's a hype man back out on the street, so that's somewhat good. Now, the other thing that I notice is that we're getting to a point where I need to stop at every street corner, which is sort of back to normal for New York. I don't know why these guys aren't driving at a green light. And there you go, you get the horn. So we're getting a little bit back to normal for New York. Ordinarily, this time of evening on a sunny day, with all of these people going wherever they're going, you'd be waiting a long time to cross. So it's, light is still not in my favor, so that's not the full degree of normal traffic, but it's back to normal somewhat. Wheat World is still out there. Somebody should dig into this. It doesn't make sense to me that this company could be allowed to operate in New York City, claiming to sell a product that's clearly illegal. They're not low-key at all. They're on the street right there. And I think they should decriminalize marijuana and tax it and sell it in the same stores where they sell cigarettes and booze and let adults make their own choices. But I don't understand how these guys can have such a burgeoning business selling obviously illegal stuff. So I thought it would be nice to come out and see what's happening in some areas of the city that I haven't been to in a while. And particularly later in the evening, I have seen a lot of these Verizon vans around all over the place. I wish I had footage on all of them, because when I don't have the camera with me, that's when I'm seeing a ton of them. I don't know who this guy is, but he's managed to avoid attack. Somebody was on Twitter pointing out, hey, here's the Lyndon Johnson statue, why don't they attack that? There's another moron on the sidewalk with a bike, almost ran into me. So I wonder if they'll do the movies in the park this year. This is one of the nice things about New York, is that in the summertime here, Bryant Park, they put up a giant, I think it would be here already if they were going to, I bet you they can't do it because it would require, social distancing or whatever. They don't want people sitting on the lawn here. But normally there's a giant movie theater screen that they put up here, and there's like a little RV that parks over at the other end of the park with a projector in it, and they show, on the weekends, they show movies for free in the park, and it's a nice kind of, social outing. But I guess we're now in a time where they want people to be antisocial, and they want everybody to be locked in their house, fearing the coronavirus second wave or whatever stupid crap Fauci and Gates are talking about now. Hey, the other reason why it's really important for people to join us on Patreon and Subscribestar is that there is a variety of strange things going on. Periscope was knocked out yesterday. I think it's been restored. If people were able to watch Jamie Ike on Periscope today, I'm not sure. I had some correspondence with them. It's very unclear. That is to say, I think I know what happened, but I don't want to talk about it because it's going to share information with the people who I'm certain initiated it. And that is an ongoing thing. Social engineers, people who I talk about, you all know who I'm talking about. Some people are like, oh, why are you fighting with everybody? Why do you have a problem with all these people? We're all on the same team. I fundamentally reject this notion that we're all on the same team. And you should too, because that type of attitude invites infiltration. If somebody thinks you're the type of person who just will allow anyone to operate under their banner in the way Field McConnell did, then nefarious people can infiltrate your organization and use your flag to fool people. That's the very nature of a false flag operation. And I'm not saying that what's happened to the channel has anything to do with Field McConnell. He's cooling his heels, house arrest, and he's not allowed to use internet or any kind of electronic device. But I'm just saying that anyone who's like, oh, we're all on the same team. I don't know that. There's a lot of people who have tried to approach me as friends and who I've learned later were just terrible liars. Oh, did people see the video that I put on Twitter? The phone call with Tiffany Fitzhenry? Kevin Shipp's going to tell me that that's unethical to record phone calls with liars that expose them lying. No problem deceiving people, lying to your friends, lying to the public. Well, not really friends. No problem with that, but it's unethical to expose these liars. See, that's the thing. You really got to dig into all of this stuff. And there's usually a deeper story there. These arches someone's been sending me some emails. Okay, here's another little piece of advice. Do not get upset if I don't answer your email. I hope that people will understand that I get more emails than I am physically able to look at. I mean, read, or even it's just too much. So I know that whatever it is that you're writing a 2-page email to me about is the most important thing in the world, and it may well be. But the longer the email, if I don't know you, it's just going to get ignored. I don't even have time to look at it and understand. I don't have a magic recipe for how to get my or anybody else's attention, and I know it's frustrating. I've tried to get the attention of social media personalities who I want to share things with, and people are busy. When you run an operation like this where it's just me, and that's how I want it to be, I don't want it to be a big company. I've run companies before. I don't want to deal with payroll and health insurance and other people and all that. But when you're just one person, it's super difficult. So definitely don't get mad at me if I don't look at your email. People who send me angry emails about how I didn't look at their last email immediately make me never want to talk to them. And, from time to time, there are things that I need to take care of that take precedence over everything, because certain matters in my life, if they result in negative outcomes for me, will preclude all of this from continuing. So I'm talking about this lawsuit. It's coming to a head. We're getting close to the trial date. Next week, I am to appear in Virginia. There was a motion that I entered the other day. I haven't really spoken about the lawsuit. And there was some dope on Twitter, fake name, sock puppet account, somebody asked me some question about this phone call I had with Tiffany Fitzhenry that people can hear on Crowdsource the Truth 2 on YouTube and on Twitter and elsewhere. And they wanted more details. And I said, look, I may get into more details someday soon. I would not just put out a phone call like that impulsively. Tiffany has acted strangely for many months, avoided my phone calls, and done a number of things to cause me to believe that she's lying to me about something substantial. I don't know what that is. Look at that. Best Buy is opening a new store. That's strange and interesting. I would not imagine that a big box retailer like Best Buy would be opening more stores in New York City, but maybe they got a great deal on the real estate. I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, this antagonist on Twitter was like, oh, spill it, truth teller. Why do you got to wait for the right time for the truth? Because I don't know what the hell Tiffany Fitzhenry is up to, and I'm not going to be goaded by unknown people into revealing things that could put me in jeopardy. When I've spoken about this hashtag fake lawsuit, I'm talking about the allegations in it are fake. The lawsuit is a real and active federal lawsuit in U.S. District Court that holds really substantial consequences for me if it doesn't go my way. So, antagonization is the tool of bullies, of the small-minded, and that's what we're going to investigate right over here. The most egregious case, certainly of presidential antagonization that I'm aware of. It's maybe the most egregious case of one adult antagonizing another that I've ever heard of, to paint this Black Lives Matter mural on the street in front of Trump Tower. I mean, there's obviously no purpose for that other than deliberately antagonizing Trump. They could show their support for the Black Lives Matter movement by painting that in front of City Hall. And I think a strong argument could be made that that would be a better place to do it. Frankly, Donald Trump doesn't even live in that Trump Tower anymore. And you're really just antagonizing people who live there or own businesses in there and are doing business there, which I guess they want to do because anything to disrupt Trump is what they're trying to do. Similar to these lawsuits and the various things that are done to me. Today, the 21st Century 3D YouTube channel got demonetized. Now, I don't know that I've ever gotten any money at all from the 21st Century 3D YouTube channel. That's a channel I started, I don't know, 15 years ago, and had a couple of camera tests from 21st Century 3D, and then nothing for a long, long time. And then when these just ridiculously annoying social engineers kept hitting every, social media platform that I had, I went and was live streaming Crowdsource the Truth content on 21st Century 3D. So something about that has caused YouTube to decide that the channel is no longer eligible for monetization. First, they canceled Super Chat, which I don't really care about. Nobody ever Super Chatted anything on 21st Century 3D. And then they just demonetized the whole channel. So, they might deplatform Crowdsource the Truth. I hope that doesn't happen. I try to be careful about not saying or doing things that'll cause that, but you never know. We did a video with Charlie Robinson a while ago. I don't want to talk about what we were talking about because it was a neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein's and just stated facts that this guy, anyway, all of these different platforms have purposes. See, WeWork is always trying to get on the Wi-Fi. I hope that doesn't screw up the broadcast. I hate you, WeWork. WeWork is a terrible company. The one time I tried to do business with me, they tried to steal $500 from me. So they're going to go out of business. Charles has told us how they, not only Charles, I think there was a movie about how they did some kind of screwy business with like billions of dollars. But it's weird. Why does it always get hit by WeWork when I walk by there? I thought I turned off all the auto join Wi-Fi functions on here. There are so many things that can cause these broadcasts to be disrupted. Every single situation that I'm in has a different set of parameters and difficulties. Okay, back to New York. Let's see what we got. A lot of the wood is down here on Fifth Avenue. This is definitely one of the highest end sections of Fifth Avenue, but there are also still a lot of stores that have just packed it in. Ooh, Michael Kors looks pretty empty. I mean, this is not really anything that I ever shop at over here. This is like tourist stuff and super expensive watches and diamonds and stuff like that. But again, I mean, at this hour, normally in July, you would expect shoulder to shoulder, streets teeming, people buying hot dogs or whatever. This is maybe falafels, shawarmas, something like that. Looks like the chocolatiers, look like they're repainting the signs here. This is Rockefeller Plaza, and they seem to be getting it cleaned up. People might recall there was some vandalism. People vandalized St. Patrick's Cathedral. That's pretty low. That's really low. Maybe they cleaned it up. All right, so now I got a red light, but this guy's not driving. You gonna go? This is not regular New York drivers. These people have no idea what they're doing. I mean, there's still been a remarkably low number of police officers just, walking around the usual beat. Oh, got the mask on Atlas. Now, I mean, was that somebody tricky who just climbed up there and did that, or is that an official thing from the Rockefeller Center? I guess they do want everybody in lockstep wearing the masks, right? So perhaps they did it. Yeah, that's what I see, is cops hanging out on the phone. Was it Bernard Kerik or Rudy Giuliani who said that use of personal cell phones on duty should be strictly disallowed? I agree with that. I mean, if you were a doctor in the OR, like texting, or, a fireman going into a building and like Instagram posting, put the damn phone away and stay engaged. do something to protect the city and restore order, that's what we need. I mean, this is so annoying because I don't want to defund the police and have no police, but yet anytime I try to interface with them, they're useless. Totally useless. Now, this thing got painted up in the morning, so I guess I haven't really been looking at the news today. I've been busy doing some other things, but I guess if there was a ruckus, it might have already happened. There's virtually no way they're going to try to do any violence over there at Trump Tower because it always has a special detail. I think it's NYPD, it's those anti-terrorism guys, but I think they would just kill everybody in a hot minute if you try to mess with that building. So best to avoid that. But there it is. It is a beautiful day, not too hot. Oh yeah, and I'm also testing out a new measure in place to counteract the extreme temperatures that we've encountered that have terminated broadcasts with Charles Ortel the past maybe 2 weeks. So people can see those fully restored broadcasts by going to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and becoming sponsors. I like to put, in addition to the huge library of sponsor exclusive shows on there, I do like to put little bonuses and benefits for sponsors because they're the people that make these shows possible. And even if you choose not to be a sponsor or don't have the finances to become a sponsor, criticizing the business model is something that only a malicious social engineer would do, because the people who can't afford or choose not to be sponsors but like the show enough that they want to write to me and tell me that I should put it on BitChute or YouTube or whatever, obviously would want the show to continue. So you should be thankful that other people are out there sponsoring the show, keeping it going with the free material, the sponsor material, and all that. So huge thank you to all the people who are sponsors. I definitely would have stopped doing this a long time ago if it wasn't for the support and encouragement of all the truly positive people out there who helped me make this show happen. We're just about 2 blocks from Trump Tower here, and it doesn't look like there's a big ruckus going on, so that's a good thing. I've had enough of ruckus for a good while. If I don't encounter a ruckus for the rest of my life, it would be okay. Now, we've also had our esteemed Governor Andrew Cuomo come out maybe 2 days ago and say that people traveling to New York from various states are going to have to be quarantined for 14 days. He added some states to this order. I think he had like Delaware and I can't remember, Tennessee, a bunch of states. I don't know why. I thought New York had the most cases. It's so arbitrary, everything that they're doing. Oh, wait a minute, there is a ruckus. Look at that. Oh boy. I do not want to get involved in a ruckus. Have people seen Hawk Newsom getting interviewed by Candace Owens? I have to say, she did a very, very good job. She's very well researched and extremely smart. And she's an important voice because, there's certain things that she can say that other people would immediately tune out, if they were said by somebody like me or whatever. So it definitely sounds like a ruckus going on. So are they going to make another Chaz over here or what?
What are you talking about? You may not be the bad guy.
So there you go.
So you talking about? I go for
Which one you on me? That's the horse. So which one you on me? So which one you on me?
I'm a black woman. What are you talking about? Oh, you're not playing. You're not a black woman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. You know how many times I hear that?
This is not about his kid. We have the freedom.
We don't have freedom. Oh, God. I don't think he have a TV.
But what are these guys talking about?
He says he don't understand this. What's the big deal? People can make money here. And he a foreigner.
This guy here?
Yeah.
What does he not understand? That they painted Black Lives Matter
Yeah,
here?
but he doesn't understand the whole thing. He says, well, in Chicago, this should be in other neighborhoods. He don't even live here.
Why do you think they chose to paint it right here in front of Trump
Because that's
Tower?
to stick it to Trump. That's all that was.
Why wouldn't they put it at City Hall or something?
Yeah.
It seems like that's the
There is
area
one
where
there. There's
they
the City
painted
Hall.
it in the street at City
Yeah,
Hall?
it's right near City Hall, the circle right there. Yeah, there is.
I didn't see it in the street. I haven't been there
Yeah,
for a
go
few
there.
days.
There's a nice one there.
So that
Beautiful.
chop over there, they painted it in the
Painted
street?
it, yeah. And he's letting the kids stay there, but I heard it's a mess now.
Yeah,
They're
people
arguing
are
with each other.
crapping all over the
Fighting.
place.
Yeah, that got out of hand.
What do you think about people defecating in front of City
Yeah,
Hall when there's a
That's why I left
COVID-19?
it. That's why I left
You were over there before?
it. Because they were fighting there. Hey, what that mean? She ain't obviously educated you.
Do you think it's helpful to put it here to antagonize Trump?
No, because he's missing the point. I think he's doing the man. There's a bill on there, police reform. He's not signing it.
The mayor's not?
He's not signing it. You know, Lakeisha Campbell, whatever her name is, the big one, she put it there.
Is she city council?
No, she's the big one. She's the district, the big one, district
Attorney, yeah.
Yeah, the big one, yeah.
But
They
then,
came down
but
with
also
all of it.
Letitia James. is
Letitia
the-
James, sorry, Letitia
Yeah,
James,
she's the
And she brought it to him. That police can't police.
The
They
Attorney
can't police.
General. She's the
Yeah,
Attorney
she
General.
can't police. Police can't police other ones. You know, a cop has never been fired for discipline in 15 years.
That's a huge problem.
That is.
But do you think that defunding it entirely is going to fix that?
If the $1 billion go elsewhere, because these cops, and the cops told me that we're out here, our captains are at home.
See, they've been stood down since March, I think.
Yeah,
I haven't
they're
seen cops around at all.
Yeah, they're
Even
around
before
City Hall
George
and
Floyd
shit.
got killed.
No, they're actually helping cops.
Who
but
is?
some of the cops, they are helping. But there's that few who are instigators. You know, the riot gear, these is kids. But the sad part is the bad ones are hanging with the good ones and they're hiding behind them.
The bad rioters?
The bad problem people, because
They're infiltrating the peaceful movement.
Because
And
one
then,
time I was at City Hall, I said, they're coming, let's move this stuff. Because they tried to block off Brooklyn, and I said, get that out of here. We can't do that. And they agreed with me, they gave them time, but they still rushed in. They didn't go all the way. The biggest thug, yeah, come on, man, I'm ready. We're not gonna do that. When them cops came, I turned around. Where did they go?
so do I hear you correctly that you want to protest and have your voice heard, but
Yeah.
specifically avoiding violence, because that's not going to help anybody?
Violence don't matter, but you remember to stay at, this is bigger than some of the people who are running these programs. This is way over their head. You know, Martin Luther King and them used to have a guy sit around and talk. You know, the big shots now, like the big shot, you don't see them. I tried to tell them, come down to City Hall, talk to these kids. They won't talk to the kids.
Who do you mean, like Al Sharpton?
National anthem, yeah, we're too busy. I said, if it
Too
wasn't-
busy? What?
Yeah.
How could they be too busy for this?
If it wasn't for them, I thought he done passed away. It's been so long with him.
Sharpton?
Yeah.
Well, he got really skinny. He had that surgery
Yeah,
to
we
like
gotta look
connect his
good.
esophagus to his butthole, and he lost a lot of weight.
You know.
So
So I really think it's voting. These kids are serious about voting. They don't care if they black, white. They have lists of who voted for who. These kids are sharp. They don't want no politicians, no preachers, nobody. They only allow little kids to talk when they go and protest. That's it.
do you think that's good?
Yeah. The politicians are full of shit. You had all this time. Excuse me, you had all this time to come up in here and do it right. Like all of a sudden now, all the Republicans and Democrats, oh yeah, we can't stand Trump now.
But did you see that Letitia James?
Fucking African American. Fuck out of here. Understand?
He's going nuts. This guy's gonna blow a gasket.
Then him.
But did you see that Letitia James?
Let's go. He has more rights than us.
Why do you say it's more rights? What is happening that's
Who are our rights?
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you see that Letitia James issued a notice
Well, that's what I mean.
to Black Lives Matter New York saying it's illegal for them to raise money because they haven't properly registered
No,
the
that's
charity?
that one in California. I heard.
No, the one in New York,
New York?
too.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think you're going to find that. There's money out there. You probably have 100 programs now.
Of people
And this is
just
the
trying to
problem.
get money
Trying to
from
get money. I fund, defund this and that. I know that.
GoFundMe.
I saw that.
9,000 different ones on there.
Yeah,
None of them
You
registered.
see them in Harlem now. All of a sudden, everybody's like Malcolm X
Collecting
Day
money.
with it.
Right.
Criticizing the kids who out here marching. So don't criticize me. I'm marching with these kids.
But you seem like a sensible guy.
I'm a marcher. What is he into it?
I don't know. These guys are all trying to create a fight. You seem like a sensible
why
guy.
is he into it? Why did he get into it?
People are just on edge, right? From being locked in their houses for months?
No. I think they're on edge in life. I've been locked in too.
Did that affect your job?
No, I'm retired.
Retired.
I'm retired.
Oh, you look young.
But it killed me. It killed me.
How do you mean?
Because I'm very active. I'm not a stay-home person. Staying home, I'm sure you can kill you. That's why you so thin. You stay home, everybody's got to. For some people, it's fine. Staying home almost killed me. I ain't gonna lie. I had to cheat. I had to go out sometimes.
All right, listen, enjoy yourself. Thanks for talking to me. So there's some ruckus. You know, I'm really surprised. Normally there's a bunch of armed cops standing right there with huge machine guns. I guess they're inside. Secret Service police is who they are. So I don't know if they're gonna get defunded. But they got it all kind of cordoned off here. I mean, I really think that this was a mistake for De Blasio to do. It seems just strictly antagonistic. And there's a lot of other places this could have been done. These guys sound good. That guy's going nuts over there. I think just having these guys here is a good idea to calm people down. They're engaged in the policy of music calming the savage beast, perhaps. That dog seems to like it. This is perhaps the calmest crowd I've seen the whole time. Except for that guy. What do you guys think about the choice to put this right here in front of Trump Tower?
Why do you ask?
Well, just curious. You sound like you're from out of town. I hear an accent.
Yeah, Europe.
Europe. Where are you
Yeah.
from?
Luxembourg.
Luxembourg.
Are
Wow.
you journalist or something?
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't want to be like online or something.
Okay, then we shouldn't talk.
Yeah.
Luxembourg. Did you come to New York just to visit?
No, I work here.
Well, at least you didn't ask if I'm recording because that's a silly question. I wonder if this will fill up with more people. You mind if I talk to you for a second? Work for the news? What do you think about painting Black Lives Matters right here in front of Trump Tower? Do you think it's deliberately intended to antagonize Trump?
It's not in front of the Carnegie Hall.
Right. You think antagonizing people is a good way to get them to compromise and agree with you? You do.
It's a good way to get them notice. If they're going to ignore you, pretend like you're not there, you have to write something in the street.
But don't you think antagonization is inherently causing a fight? Like the antagonist in a novel is always, there's a protagonist and an antagonist. So in this situation, Trump is the protagonist. It seems like the opposite of what you want to do if you want to get somebody to compromise and do what you want.
He's shown that he's not going to compromise. He's not interested.
How do you know that?
His rhetoric.
Oh.
The KKK, they're fine people, remember?
How is he with the KKK?
They're fine people. He tweeted out in a white power video.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did do that. But I watch the news, but I try to dig a little deeper than just believing everything they say. It's wonderful how people have like a couple of talking points that they think Trump. I don't think he personally tweeted that. I did see that there was some controversial video that got tweeted out. But I mean, you know, if you go in and analyze every single thing that somebody does or that everybody in a large organization does on behalf of a person, I think you're going to find objectionable things. I don't know that antagonizing someone is a good way to get them to agree with you or do what you want. I personally think Mayor De Blasio could have done a lot of things to improve race relations in New York City, and painting this thing in front of Trump Tower doesn't seem like the best one. You know, the other thing that De Blasio needs to keep in mind is that, hey, Lincoln, how you doing, man? Good to see you. People should subscribe to Lincoln Kareem on YouTube if you haven't already. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Subscribe to Lincoln Kareem on YouTube. He's doing some great work, a lot of videos on there throughout the pandemic. Well, this is at least calm. People standing, talking, definitely better than fighting. There's a woman working at the hospital. I would like to talk to Lincoln, but I don't want to bother him right now. He seems busy. So this is amazing. This, every time you come to Trump Tower since he became president, there's nothing but cops around. And now you got virtually none. Why is that? This woman looks kind of old to be a cop. Excuse me, officer. Excuse me, officer. So every time I've come over here since Donald Trump was elected president, there's more police than virtually anywhere in the city, and today there's so few. Why is that?
That I have no idea.
Is that the mayor's decision?
I have no idea.
Huh. Doesn't it seem strange to you that if they paint this thing here, it's likely that there'll be people who might come over and could create some kind of... Okay, Secret Service, why are there so few cops here on a day that we're having a demonstration in front of the building? There's normally tons of police.
I prefer not to answer any questions.
Can't answer the questions?
I said I prefer not.
Okay.
Why do you have a demonstration about blacks killing blacks?
What?
Why do you have a demonstration about blacks killing blacks? And you can record me.
Yeah, that's a fine idea. You could do it.
Well, no, you're the one doing it, right?
No, I'm not doing that. And thank you, but I don't take unsolicited advice from people I don't know. Why don't you? I don't like that question. Why doesn't she? Boy, that was a really immediately hostile environment, how the cop came around behind me. This is a bad scene going on over here, because what I think happened is the mayor probably controls the NYPD. And obviously the Secret Service controls the Secret Service police, so there's like a coalition of police over here. And I'm sure the Secret Service police adhere to different protocols than the NYPD. But it seems for sure, again, like they're stood down over there, probably because Donald Trump is not here, no one in his family is here, so maybe they're not as concerned with protecting New Yorkers. I don't think it takes a genius to anticipate that if you create a Black Lives Matter demonstration in front of Trump Tower, you are inviting chaos. So then if you do that and remove the police, I don't know. Why would you do that? Well, let's see. I think this thing is dead. It had 10% when I looked at it before. Yeah, I don't know. It still says 10%, so that's good. Low battery. Let's see if we can see any comments here. I don't know if it's gonna do that, but you know, that was something to see there. The Black Lives Matter outside of Trump Tower. Now it won't log on to Wi-Fi, so I don't know if we're gonna get to see comments here today. But we got a nice sunset on the walk home, golden hour lighting. Let's see if we can find the other network. I don't know, now it's down to 7%. Boy, you know, Jamie Ike was talking about this earlier. There are so many Wi-Fi points bombarding me right now. AT&T Passpoint. Now that's something different. I don't know what that's going to do, but it doesn't seem to be connecting to that either. I don't think that was a good idea. I think that's done to antagonize Trump. You know, you got a bunch of guys like that bicycle guy who says, oh, he tweeted a white power video. I don't know that Donald Trump personally tweeted that. I don't have all the details on that. It obviously was a stupid thing to have happen. But it's interesting that that's the talking point that guy chooses to hang on, rather than the fact that he funded the historically black colleges more than Barack Obama ever did or any other president ever did. He has improved the situation with regard to unemployment for black Americans. But you know, people who want to hate are going to hate. My biggest beef with Donald Trump is that he hasn't done enough of what he said he's going to do. Hasn't acted on, you know, defunding George Soros, arresting Hillary Clinton. Hiring Bill Barr was a huge mistake. But I'm still holding out hope that something good will happen. I mean, we can't just give up, of course. And I'm definitely not thinking Joe Biden's going to do any good. We're going to have just pure Marxist chaos if Joe Biden becomes the president. I mean, he'll be, what is it, the 25th Amendment? I mean, why don't they just invoke that on the first afternoon and take him right out of there? Somebody was speculating, maybe it was Charles or some tweet that Charles put up earlier about Hillary is getting ready to run into the race. Oh yeah, Charles Ortel put out a great tweet. I forget what the publication was, but it was talking about how Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew was working in Hillary Clinton's State Department in a really substantial role, having to do with Libya and Syria and basically all the biggest disasters in the past 10 years. There's a lot of research into the Maxwells and gun running and their involvement with Bulgarian intelligence and the Soviet Union, obviously Mossad. You know, that's clear. So that's why it's so ridiculous when Dershowitz, you know, when I asked him stuff about, that's the car I used to have in California, hybrid Ford. When I asked him about, you know, Epstein allegedly being involved in blackmail and working for intelligence, he's like, well, no, I've never heard of that. It's like, come on, Dersh, what am I, stupid? So, I mean, that's Dersh for you. I think he's heard of it. But, I mean, again, when somebody like Dersh acts like that, I got to think that Dersh is probably like a lawyer working for all these Israeli interests. I mean, he's very open about his friendship with Netanyahu and going and visiting him and talking to him. Phone call there might have just disrupted. But, you know, in my view, Dersh says a lot of stupid stuff. I don't know why. Usually lawyers tell you, don't say that, don't talk about that, don't say anything. And even in the very first video I ever did outside the courthouse where I met him, you know, after the Gafri v. Dershowitz, he's talking and his lawyer's like, Alan, let's just not say it. And he's like, oh, no, I want to say it. So Dersh always seems to have like a message that he wants to get out. Now remember, I called him when they had announced that Maxwell had been arrested, but it coincided with Judge Preska, who is not the judge in the criminal case against Maxwell. She's the judge in the civil case, Giuffre v. Dershowitz. And she came down with an opinion and an order telling telling Giuffre to destroy this evidence that was under seal. Now, in the phone call with me, which by all measures Dershowitz should have said, "Oh, Jason Goodman, I'm a sharp lawyer. You were a jerk on the phone." Click. That's what he said the last time I called him. That call never got broadcast because I just called him and asked him if we could do a follow-up to his, video about jamming a needle in your arm, because as he instructed me, I went and looked up Massachusetts Jacobson v. Massachusetts, and I felt that he was wrong in his evaluation of how that allowed the government to forcibly jam things into you. He's got a lot of friends who like to forcibly jam things into people. Not funny, sorry. But anyway, when I called him, then he remembered who I was, and I said, I looked it up as you said I should, and I disagree. Would you come back on the show and discuss it? And he said, no, you should just go, because he also had lied about our conversation. He appeared on Del Bigtree, High Wire with Del Bigtree, and he said that I had, blindsided him with the question, which is totally not what happened. He brought it up on his own accord, that whole deal about jamming a needle into people's arms. So I told him that, you misrepresented our conversation, and he said, okay, rail about it on your show, and he rudely hung up the phone. So look at that, it looks like they're getting ready to bring back some outdoor dining. This is normally the ice skating thing, but obviously not in the summertime. Rockefeller Center here. Yeah, so Dersh remembered who I was that time and hung up the phone. But now when I called him last week or whatever it was, he didn't answer. So I figured he wasn't taking my calls. And then he called right back within just a couple minutes or seconds even, and surprised me. I was like, oh, Professor Dershowitz, I didn't realize you would call back. And he seemed to not remember who I was. Maybe he didn't hear me say my name, or maybe he didn't put the name together. But the fact that he would say all that to somebody who he didn't know what it was, or even if he knew it was me, I mean, let's face it, in the world of news, particularly to Alan Dershowitz, I'm not a person of great significance. So why would he say that to me? He obviously wanted that to get out. And you see, it was interesting. I've been following this Giuffre v. Dershowitz for a while because, I don't know, it just intrigued me. Obviously, it's part of the Jeffrey Epstein saga. It's happening here in New York, so I had good access to it. And it didn't involve, Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein or, like even Virginia Roberts Giuffre wasn't there. Her lawyers were there, so it was a pretty empty courtroom. I was able to get there without waiting in a huge crowd or whatever. And I do find it quite interesting to observe these various, I went to the Flynn sentencing, and I've been to a couple different things that Larry Klayman has done and stuff with Jerry Corsi and some of these Epstein things. It's interesting, And I mean, look, this is our legal system. Everybody complains about it, but you got to kind of understand it a little bit better. How are we going to improve it, Everybody wants to defund the police. Well, I mean, that sounds like a stupid idea to me. I meant to ask that guy, why do we need to defund the police by $1 billion? They keep just printing trillions out of nowhere. Why don't you leave the police the way it is and put other money into these unknown social programs that they think will protect you from somebody trying to assault you in the middle of Washington Square Park? What I'd like to do is audit the police. I'd like to have some kind of citizen committee that would have real influence over what gets done to the police. I mean, that way the police would know if they're jerks and, beat people up and kill people, they're going to answer to somebody who's not necessarily a cop. Why can't they do that? Why can't you just immediately impanel some grand jury of citizens to evaluate? And I don't know, there's a lot of things we could do, but defunding just sounds stupid. Sounds antagonistic, yet again. All these things, they just want to antagonize everybody. Now, remember, these are these three buildings that seem identical, which that one there has Sidley Austin in it. right? 1251, I'm pretty sure. It has a Sidley Austin office in it. And then this one is Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, the home of Fox and the highly disreputable New York Post, which definitely seems to be posting a lot of nonsense. Oh yeah, now back to Ghislaine Maxwell. Again, I haven't been looking at the news too much today, but I was looking at a lot of court dockets. And one of them was for 20 CR 330, the criminal case against Ghislaine Maxwell with that really unusual indictment. Mike Moore and I were going over the indictment on Tuesday night's More Pain. People can see that on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and also Patreon and Subscribestar for True Pundit. But there were a lot of things about that didn't make sense. Now, Mike brought up that there were no charges there past 1997. It's interesting. I have these conversations with Mike, and then I go and talk to Charles. And it's like two really intelligent, insightful people with often very different views. Because Charles' opinion with regard to that nothing past 1997 is that these are all crimes for which there is no statute of limitations. And so it wasn't necessarily important or even useful to bring in additional crimes. You know, it's just the thing. People got to understand lawyering and stuff. Not that I know anything about it. I've sort of read the first part of page 1 of a 1,000-page book of how to do it. But I mean, getting into it, you get a little bit of insight, and it's just, it doesn't follow logic or common sense necessarily. It's got its own set of parameters that are often very difficult for non-lawyers to understand or appreciate. So that could be true. Charles could be right. Maybe they didn't want to go past this 1997 stuff because of the evidence that they have available, or because it's sufficient to do whatever. I personally don't believe that they even have her in custody. I was reading through the entire docket of 20 CR 330, the criminal complaint. I don't know, cops always seem to be up to something weird. Those guys were, I guess they don't trust anybody on the street, which makes sense. So if you walk into their vision, their field of view there, they're checking you out like, you know, is this guy going to do something? Should we shoot him? I guess, I don't know. Anyway, looking through that docket, it's interesting. So, what's her name? Is it Lydia Strauss, the acting U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York? Strauss. So there was a document in there where they're requesting that. See, that woman just threw a cigarette on the street and it landed in a pile of cardboard boxes. Everybody's upset about what I'm doing with a mask and how that's going to affect other people when I'm not even sick. But that lady, no problem, smoke cigarettes, throw them all around, start a fire, throw it down the subway. They have signs all over the place that throwing cigarette butts down that thing can start fires in the subway. Somebody could die from that. Anyway, nobody wants to talk about that. So Strauss is requesting that Maxwell be transferred to the Southern District of New York. But they're holding her now in the Federal Detention Center in the Eastern District of New York. Now, I don't know why that is. I haven't been able to find out from anybody, but it definitely seems possible that those two jurisdictions. Oh, Citibank, get out of here. Get out of here, Citibank. Damn you. Citibank just took over. Ooh, you bastards. They just totally killed the broadcast. Damn you, Citibank. You know, that should not. Oh my gosh. So are we done? Is that it? Oh. I don't know. Hang on. Let's see if we can get this back here. All right. There we go. Citibank. So it's very possible that the Eastern District of New York and the Southern District of New York are so close to one another. That guy was eyeballing me in a very disconcerting way. They could be so close that they just use one facility or the other depending on a variety of different parameters. You know, that thing is in Brooklyn. It is interesting to note that if you look at The Intercept, starting in May, they did a series. What's the guy's name? The journalist's last name is Pinto. They did a series of stories about how that federal detention center in Brooklyn is overrun with coronavirus. They're not accurately reporting the number of cases. They're sort of preemptively building up this litany of news about that place being a hotbed of coronavirus. So the other thing that happened is tomorrow was supposed to be the arraignment for Ghislaine Maxwell, but that has now been rescheduled for the 14th of July. The other thing Mike and I were talking about on Patreon and Subscribestar on Tuesday nights, More Pain, was this questionable notion of how long it's taking to arraign her. Obviously, there's that constitutional right to a speedy trial, or there's the Speedy Trial Act, or something like that. That's addressed in some of Strauss's pleadings on the docket. And I didn't get too into this, but there's something in there about the amount of time it took to travel from New Hampshire to New York and subtracting that from the 10 days of the speedy trial thing. And then her lawyer had an application to appear pro hoc vice. He's a Colorado lawyer and he wants to represent her in New York, so he's got to ask permission of the court to appear in a jurisdiction where he's not licensed. And I think generally they grant it, so we'll see. I think that might have even been granted for that guy. The other thing that's important is that there's a lawyer. I better wait. I'm not sure if Mike wants to talk about that yet. He's still developing the story. But there is no shortage of intrigue and weird stuff going on with this Ghislaine Maxwell arraignment, arrest, etc. The other thing that it said about the arraignment that's happening on the 14th is that it will be by video. She's going to appear by video, and it spoke about that video stream will go to 500 Pearl Street, so it will be tried in the Southern District of New York, even though she's being held in Brooklyn. I haven't been able to find anybody who has been able to even offer an explanation for why she's in Brooklyn and not the MCC, where Dead Ep allegedly died, and then they didn't show us a picture that actually looked like him until 4 months later. So that was interesting. But you would think, given what happened to Dead Ep, if Barr really cared about this at all, there'd be pictures of Maxwell, booking photos released. They'd know exactly where she is and what she's doing. And you would think that there'd be some desire to restore public faith in the American justice system, either on the part of the Attorney General or the President, for that matter. But that's not happening. The other concern that a lot of people have suggested that I think is real valid is that this whole arrest could be a precursor to somehow coming out with some evidence that's going to tie Epstein and Maxwell to President Trump. That would make a lot of sense, particularly when you think about and look at all these connections between Hillary Clinton's State Department, Ghislaine Maxwell's niece. Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. I mean, there's basically, two photos and a video of Trump hanging out with Epstein. And he made a comment that was also not a very smart comment to make, that he's a great guy. I mean, was he serious? Was he joking? The president frequently speaks with New York sarcasm that people outside of New York might not be too dialed into. But, Epstein was at Mar-a-Lago. We've heard that Trump kicked him out. I don't know if that's the same. Was Epstein at Ivanka Trump's wedding? Now, granted, I know a lot of people, including me, are not too crazy, to say the least, about Ivanka's husband, who's another guy who has a very close relationship with Bibi Netanyahu. What's going on with Jared Kushner and Dersh? Are they buddies? Because that would be interesting to know. All these connections, So anyway, people are concerned. If Maxwell is appearing by video, keep in mind, she could be in France appearing on video. And people will say, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. How are you going to have every cop and every whatever in on it? And I am not suggesting that that's what would be occurring. What I am suggesting is that if someone wanted to set up an elaborate trick like this, which if you don't think that elaborate tricks have been played on the people of the United States, you haven't been watching Crowdsource the Truth long enough. But they've basically had us all inside our houses for the past 4 months, 4.5 months, whatever, on the basis of a manufactured fear coming out of what many people have said is not substantially more deadly than a strong seasonal flu. And the guy we're taking advice from is the same genius who thought it would be wise to resurrect the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. That seems stupid to me. Why didn't they fire that guy? But anyway, if you wanted to perpetrate such a hoax, I mean, I guess you would get somebody who looks approximately like Ghislaine Maxwell and put her in a house in New Hampshire and tell a bunch of FBI agents to arrest her and put her in jail in Brooklyn. And then if you need convincing video, get Ghislaine Maxwell on some jail set in France would really be the most logical place for her to be if French-born citizens can't be extradited to the United States and people like Roman Polanski hang out there. He's there accused of raping a minor, drugging and raping a minor, and then never forced him to come back. He's still allowed to make movies and be applauded by Meryl Streep and all that. They hate Donald Trump, but they love people who give quaaludes to 13-year-old girls and rape them. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of reason to believe that this Ghislaine Maxwell thing could be yet another setup to try to tank Trump's 2020 run. They are not letting up. They're just like the social engineers who are after me in certain regards. And that's why I have come to believe that the guys that are trying to deplatform Crowdsource the Truth and put out lies about me and bring fake lawsuits against me, they all seem to be playing from the same playbook. Yeah, this is Chick-fil-A. I don't know, this is the saltiest, nastiest place. I don't know why people like Chick-fil-A. It's disgusting if you ask me. And then In-N-Out Burger, that's another one. Red light. I don't know. So we seem to have a little bit more polite crowd out tonight. Instead of waving to the camera rather than screaming at me to take the camera off of them. I prefer that. Hey, look at that, Krispy Kreme donuts. I thought that went out of business. When they first brought Krispy Kreme donuts to New York, they opened a big one on 23rd Street. I think it's like Boston Chicken now or something like that. But they opened the Krispy Kreme donuts, and it was like creating such an intense donut smell on 23rd Street that the neighborhood, whatever, like the coalition of whatever it is, got together and somehow forced Krispy Kreme donuts. Like, people were pissed off. They wanted the smell of urine back. They didn't want these donuts. So they made them put some kind of ionizing, some kind of machine on the roof of the place that did something to the smell of the donuts. And I don't know if it was a result of that, but shortly after, Krispy Kreme went out of business and they just don't have a giant Krispy Kreme donuts over there anymore. More stuff is open for sure. And there's a bit of a party atmosphere down the street here. That's Keen's Steakhouse. That's a pretty well-known steakhouse. I think there's a famous mobster was shot in there or right outside it or something. Actually, no, it looks like this is Keen's and that's a bar just next to Keen's. If I had the comments going, I'm certain somebody would know who the mobster that was shot at Keen's is. So perhaps I'll see that when I return home. But yeah, this is the latest I've been out in several months. And there is some evidence of certain stragglers, kind of, you know, people who think that before the pandemic I'm talking about now, people who think that New York City is dangerous. I mean, for the most part, you're largely safe simply due to the volume of people that are around. You know, most people don't want to do anything just because there's so many people around and they'll be seen, and they previously were pretty concerned that they might get arrested if they broke the law. Now, obviously, that's much less of a concern. We see a lot of people very clearly behaving in a way that indicates they have virtually no fear of arrest. Massive increase in gun violence, violent crime. Oh, is Disney making a movie out of Hamilton? Now streaming. Huh, I didn't know that. Experience the original Broadway production. Wow, are they doing that because Broadway is closed? Everything is this or that from home. I saw somebody on Twitter was talking about, or Instagram, was talking about Comic-Con at home. I mean, what the hell is the point of that? People are going to get dressed up as superheroes and hang out in their house with nobody? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people go to Comic-Con to meet these movie stars who are in the various comic movies and I guess meet. I haven't been to Comic-Con in a real long time, so I think it's evolved quite a bit. But those are social things. You meet friends at things like that. I mean, I used to go to the broadcasters conventions. I used to go to the International Broadcast Convention, the Cannes Film Festival, and the British Film Institute, and you got your friends, and those become your kind of like annual things. If you're a Comic-Con goer, I'm sure there's certain people that you see at Comic-Con and you meet up with at Comic-Con and you go there. All of that has been decimated. This is more along the lines of what Jamie Ike was talking about. You know, his movie Unnatural talks quite a bit about 5G and our growing reliance on technology and implantable technology, but he wasn't just talking about the exposure to electromagnetic radiation. He was talking about, and when you think about it, you've seen this, he was talking about how, you know, kids who have grown up with these technologies, to a lot of us, you know, we got them when we were adults, and it's a convenience that, you know, maybe you spent the majority of your life developing without that. But we all know kids who grew up with an iPhone in their face or an iPad, and you know, when anybody wants them to kind of calm down, they're pacified with that. And Jamie raised a lot of interesting points about what that does as far as creating an antisocial society. And now that it's become mainstream and mandatory, as a matter of fact, to be antisocial, you're an enemy and a loser if you're not antisocial. You're killing grandma, or you know, you're going to get yelled at by somebody on the street if you're not antisocial. So perhaps this is all coordinated to do that. It's good news that I'm getting pretty close to my destination here and haven't been accosted by anyone yet. That's a rarity and perhaps a sign that things are returning to normal. I didn't want to start too many conversations over at the I don't even know if that was a protest. That was just sort of a gathering over there. That I can deal with. I think people standing around talking, that guy yelling was getting a little bit worked up, but you know, that's fine. I think for people to come together and share ideas and share their opinions and talk, and even if you're going to get excited, but that guy was a little bit off in terms of these are kids out here and they're all doing good. There was a lot of people out there who were just strictly rioting, looting, stealing stuff, creating problems. He had it right in that there were people who were embedding themselves in there or infiltrating. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was talking about when this stream began a little over an hour ago. You should not just automatically assume because someone says, hey, I'm on your side, that they are. Like, again, if you're running Black Lives Matters, and then there's Black Lives Matters New York, Black Lives Matters Seattle, Black Lives Matters Antifa, I don't think that they're all coordinated or necessarily aligned or even on the same team. And isn't telling someone you're on their team the perfect thing to do if you want them to let you into their inner circle so that you can do something to hurt them? That's a big part of what was happening to me for a long time. Maybe it still is. I mean, there's certainly people who try all the time. That's why if I put out a video like I did with me asking Tiffany Fitzhenry questions on the phone that she doesn't answer satisfactorily, yeah, sure, Tiffany doesn't owe me any answers. Of course not. I'm not saying she does. I'm just saying that there was a certain way she was behaving for a long time, and then that changed. The reasons that she offered for why it changed didn't seem to make sense to me. And when I, for several months, gave her the benefit of the doubt in trying to communicate with her, it was quite clear that right along the same lines of Kevin Shipp, Liz Crokin, that they were trying to hide something from me or just didn't want to discuss it. And then when I looked at this lawsuit that was going against Tiffany, that didn't make sense. That movie that they put out, the trailers with Kevin had 1/10 the normal engagement. Oh yeah, this was interesting. So Tiffany had contacted me yesterday. I didn't call her out of nowhere. A lot of times these people, it's like, whatever. I forget about them, let them go do whatever they're gonna do. I don't need to antagonize. But she texted me. And that was unusual because I haven't spoken to her in a few months and I frankly have nothing to say to her. There's another guy almost crashed into me on the bike. So obviously, you know, that guy shouldn't be doing that. Somebody's gonna get hurt. If that guy crashed into me and I broke my wrist, do you think he's gonna stick around and call an ambulance? No. Probably beat me up and go away. Point is, Tiffany texts me this video of Dr. Barrett, something like that, this guy in Texas who's treating COVID-19. I watched it. Interesting video. I mean, you know, the guy is saying what we want to hear. He's been treating COVID-19 with a nebulized steroid, I think he said. An inhaler didn't work, but nebulizing worked. I don't quite remember what nebulizing is. I think it's like kind of like one of those old humidifiers where it's somehow, I don't know, people are going to know what a nebulizer is, but I'm not one of those people. But this guy was talking about nebulized steroids and a couple of other things that were treatments. And it was an interesting video. He was actually being interviewed by a woman who I believe I met at that event in Texas. People who've been watching for a while will remember I went to a Louis Gohmert event. This was at somebody's private home in Texas, a big mansion. It was like a fundraiser, you know, you had to pay, I don't even remember how much, but it was like a cocktail party and you could talk to Louis Gohmert for 2 minutes and he gave a speech and that was the thing. But this woman was there, this was her radio show, and she even said on the interview with Dr. Bartlett that she had just met him. So to me that means she obviously doesn't know him very well or who he is. And it just seemed weird to me that Tiffany Fitzhenry would text me that video when I don't talk to her anymore. And I was never talking to her about COVID-19 or doctors and stuff like that. We were talking about our mutual experience of being kind of outsiders in Hollywood. I never knew her when I was there, but we kind of bonded on that, how there were things that happened in Hollywood that we didn't, in our own experience, that just we weren't down with and kind of soured us to the whole thing. So it seemed strange to me that she would text me this video about this doctor because she's also not trying to help me in any way. There's a bunch of weird stuff that happened with Tiffany that I haven't spoken about because it's frankly just a waste of time for the most part. And also there's a lot of people who get upset when I talk about this stuff, or at least people, maybe they're social engineers too. Because remember, my former associate, very tall, objectionable, drunk fellow, he used to tell me, oh, don't pay attention to those guys, don't bother those guys. And a lot of them were guys who we've come to realize are definitely liars, definitely malicious people who, as I continue to view them on YouTube and see what they're up to, they seem to be up to some screwy business. And we'll find out pretty soon what that's all about. Look at that. Look at that golden hour light hitting the Freedom Tower. That's a nice image. Oh, what's this? We have another outdoor restaurant. Yeah, so there's certain things coming back to life here. This is JJ Canana's. I'm not familiar with that restaurant. And Two Bros Pizza is back in action. I never really ate there. That always strikes me as like a lot of hoodlums hanging out. It's one of these like $1 pizza joints, $2.99 or something. But yeah, so it's just interesting, these people who said, oh, don't bother those people. So Tiffany texts me this video, and before I even watched the video, I called her, and she didn't answer. So she texts me back, I'm on a conference call, which is what she said every single time I've called her for the past several months. She's busy, she's always on conference calls. But then she says, oh, I'll call you when the call is over. She doesn't call. I text her, oh, sorry, it went longer. I'll call you at 1, doesn't call. You know, at a certain point, you know somebody is avoiding you. So when I called her for the first time ever from a number other than my regular number, she answered right away. People should listen to the call and make up their own minds. My personal opinion. So I got the very strong impression that she was lying to me. And again, why? Why are these people lying? They all seem to be associated in one way or another, and they seem to be behaving strangely and lying. I don't know why. I'm asking why. All right, I'm getting caught up in a little bit of a quagmire of garbage over here. Can people believe this? Look at this. It's a lot of garbage. Bill De Blasio has got a lot of stuff he should be doing to improve this city, antagonizing the President of the United States by basically inviting a riot in front of his building. I mean, how else can you interpret that? Fewer police than are ever there on a normal day, a cordoned off area for people to gather in, the Black Lives Matter sign right on the street obviously is going to invite Black Lives Matter supporters to come to a place where Trump supporters are likely to go or be or whatever. It strikes me that Bill De Blasio is trying to create a problem. And he has got to go. Can people see that face mask required sign? All right, so I've made it back without getting accosted, assaulted, or otherwise damaged. That's a good thing. The broadcast held its integrity. I'm constantly trying to develop new techniques to overcome the myriad problems that come up from time to time. I'll reiterate that giving me technical help and advice is not useful. Whoa. This is a hotel. Wow. Look at that. Now, normally this has a really lively outdoor restaurant, but I mean, the thing, I guess it's closed. No trespassing. Wow. Yeah, that was a Sheraton hotel. And then this was a pretty good restaurant. Huh. Wow. 187 is the police code for murder. Yeah, Bill De Blasio's got a lot of stuff that he could be doing other than antagonizing Trump. That's all I've got to say about that for tonight. I hope that people will sponsor the show by going to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. There's a new system that I keep forgetting to tell people about. If you are a person who does not like to put your credit card on the internet, I totally understand that. You can send a check. I don't recommend sending cash through the mail, but you can do that. But if you would like a subscription on Subscribestar, I can now provide those for payments for people who don't have credit cards or otherwise don't want to use a credit card. So send an email to truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org and I can help you put that together. Thanks everybody who sponsored the show. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a great night.